The silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Commander Day-Wan stood on the bridge of the Revenant, his eyes fixed on the viewing screen. Before him floated a council station, massive and gleaming with lights. It looked peaceful. It looked safe. But Day-Wan knew better than anyone that looks could lie. 3,000 years. That was how long humanity had been hiding in the darkness. 3,000 years since the Council destroyed Earth. Day-Wan had never seen old Earth. Neither had his parents or their parents. But every human child grew up knowing the story. They knew about the day the sky burned. They knew about the billions who died. They knew about the betrayal. Lieutenant Jiwoo walked up beside him. She was young, only 25, but already one of his best officers. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. Numbers and symbols flashed on her screen. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," she said. Her voice was quiet but tense. "There's a transmission coming from inside the station. It's not military. It looks like research data." Day-Wan moved closer to her station. "Can you decode it?" Jiwoo's fingers danced across the controls. After a moment, text began appearing on the screen. Day-Wan read it carefully. Then he read it again. His heart beat faster. "Get Dr. Hana up here," he said. "Right now." Dr. Hana arrived on the bridge 5 minutes later. She was older than most of the crew, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her entire life studying human history, preserving what little remained after the destruction. When she saw the transmission on the screen, she went very still. "This is from a council archivist," she said slowly. "His name is Thalmor. He's researching what happened to humanity 3,000 years ago, and according to this, he's questioning the official story." Day-Wan felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What do you mean?" Hana pointed at the screen. "The council always said humanity was destroyed because we were dangerous. Because we were expanding too fast, becoming too powerful, threatening the peace. But this archivist found old records. Records that tell a different story." She pulled up another section of the transmission. "According to these documents, some council members opposed destroying humanity. They argued there was no real threat, but they were outvoted. The species that wanted us gone were the ones who controlled the major trade routes. They saw human colonies as competition. They saw our trade ships taking their profits. So it was never about security," Jiwoo said. Her voice shook with anger. "It was about money. It was about greed," Day-Wan said. He felt his hands curl into fists. For 3,000 years, humanity had believed they were destroyed because they were feared. To learn the truth was something else. They were murdered for profit. Hana was still reading. "This archivist is brave. He's storing all this information in hidden files. He knows if the council leadership finds out what he's discovered, they'll silence him, just like they silenced the truth 3,000 years ago." Day-Wan made a decision. "Copy everything. Every file, every document. We're taking this back to New Haven." New Haven was humanity's capital now. Not a planet, but an entire asteroid field that humans had turned into a fortress. Ships could hide in the rocks. Cities were carved deep into stone where scanners couldn't find them. It was home to millions of humans, all descended from the few thousand who escaped the destruction of Earth. As the Revenant began its journey back, Day-Wan thought about what this information meant. For 3,000 years, humanity had been preparing, building ships, training soldiers, developing weapons, all in secret, all in the darkness between stars. They had become ghosts watching the council from the shadows. But now they had proof. Proof that the council had lied. Proof that humanity's destruction was never justified. This changed everything. 3 weeks later, Day-Wan stood before Chancellor Bo-Ra in the Grand Hall of New Haven. The hall was carved from solid rock, its walls covered with names. The names of everyone who died when Earth burned. Billions of names. It took miles of wall space to list them all. Bo-Ra was a small woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much pain. She led humanity now, but she carried the weight of 3,000 years of suffering on her shoulders. She listened carefully as Day-Wan presented the evidence. When he finished, she sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "For 3,000 years, we've asked ourselves if we deserved what happened. If maybe we really were too aggressive, too dangerous. Many of our people believed that. They thought perhaps the council was right to fear us." She stood and walked to the wall of names. Her finger traced one name among millions. "My ancestor," she said quietly. She was 5 years old when Earth died. She was on a colony ship that escaped. She spent her whole life wondering what her family did wrong to deserve such punishment. Bora turned back to Daewon. Now we know the truth. We did nothing wrong. We were simply in the way of someone else's profits. Her voice grew harder. The question is, what do we do with this information? We reveal ourselves, said Admiral Tae-young. He was the commander of humanity's hidden fleet, a tall man with scars on his face from old battles. We show the galaxy that humanity survived. We show them what the Council tried to hide. And then what? Asked Dr. Hana. She had been invited to the meeting because of her expertise. Do we demand justice? Do we demand revenge? The Council is powerful. They have thousands of worlds, billions of soldiers. We have something they don't, Tae-young said. We have 3,000 years of anger. 3,000 years of preparing for this moment. Our technology is beyond anything they've seen. Our ships can move through their space undetected. Our weapons were designed specifically to fight Council forces. Bora raised her hand for silence. This decision is too important for anger. Yes, we want justice. Yes, we want the truth known. But we must be smart about this. If we simply attack, we become what they claimed we were. We become the threat they pretended to see 3,000 years ago. She looked at each of them. We will reveal ourselves. We will share the truth. But we will do it in a way that gives the Council no choice but to listen. We will make them face what they did, and we will make them answer for it. Daewon felt something stir in his chest. Hope, maybe, or perhaps just the beginning of something that had been waiting 3,000 years to start. That night he stood in his quarters looking at a small photograph. It was old, faded, passed down through his family for generations. It showed old Earth from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents, a beautiful world that no longer existed. Soon, he thought, soon the galaxy would know that humanity never died. They only waited, and now after 3,000 years of silence they were ready to speak. The broadcast began at exactly midnight, Council Standard Time. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, every communication screen suddenly went dark. Then a new image appeared. A blue and green planet, beautiful and alive. Then that same planet burning, continents turning to glass under orbital bombardment, oceans boiling away, cities vanishing in nuclear fire. A voice spoke. It was calm, clear, and spoke in every major galactic language at once. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Council destroyed this world. They called it Earth. They killed 15 billion humans. They told the galaxy it was necessary. They said humanity was dangerous. They lied. For 2 hours, the broadcast continued. It showed documents, recordings, evidence that proved the Council's decision was based on economics, not security. It showed the Council members who opposed the genocide being silenced. It showed trade route projections that revealed the real reason humanity had to die. And then at the end, the broadcast showed something else. Human faces. Hundreds of them, thousands, all alive, all looking directly at the camera. And then came the final message in bold text. We remember. We return, we seek justice. The screens went back to normal. But the galaxy was anything but normal now. On Unity Prime, the Council's capital world, emergency meetings began immediately. High Counselor Vrek slammed his fist on the table so hard it cracked. He was from the Talshan species, a people who valued strength above all else. His scales turned deep red with rage. This is an act of war, he shouted. The humans have hacked our communication networks. They have spread lies and propaganda across Council space. We must respond with force immediately. Counselor Dowleen held up her hand. She was Velkari, a species known for wisdom and long life. She had lived for 400 years and learned that quick anger often led to bad decisions. These are not lies, Vrex. I have seen some of these documents before. In the restricted archives. I always wondered why they were hidden. You knew? Another counselor stood up. You knew the truth and said nothing. I suspected, Dowlin said carefully. But suspicion is not proof. And speaking against 3,000 years of accepted history without proof would have accomplished nothing. Now the humans have given us proof. The question is, what do we do about it? Vrex's eyes narrowed. We find them. We finish what our ancestors started. Humanity is a disease that should have been completely eliminated. That kind of thinking is exactly what caused this problem, Dowlin said. Her voice was sharp now. And I notice you're not addressing the actual evidence. You're not denying what the broadcast showed. You just want to silence it with violence. The argument continued for hours. The council was divided. Some species wanted immediate military action. Others called for investigation. A few even suggested opening diplomatic channels with the humans. But no one could agree on anything. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, ordinary citizens were having their own reactions. On some worlds, people were horrified to learn what their government had done. On others, old prejudices rose up. Humanity was always a threat, they said. The Council was right to remove them. But there were also those who saw the truth clearly. Young people especially began asking difficult questions. If the Council lied about humanity, what else had they lied about? How many other species had been eliminated for convenience? How many other crimes were hidden in restricted archives? In his archive office, Thalmor watched the chaos unfold with mixed feelings. His research had been stolen and broadcast to the entire galaxy. Part of him was horrified. He could be arrested for treason. But another part of him felt relief. The truth was out. He no longer carried it alone. When security forces came to his office 3 days later, he expected to be arrested. Instead, they found him already packing. "I'm turning myself in," he told them. "I take full responsibility for my research," but the security chief shook his head. "We're not here to arrest you. Counselor Dallin sent us to protect you. There have been threats. People who want to silence you before you can testify." "Testify?" Thalmor was confused. "Testify where?" "The humans have made an offer," the security chief explained. "They want a meeting. Neutral location. They're willing to talk instead of fight, but only if we guarantee them a fair hearing. Counselor Dallin is pushing for it. She wants you there to confirm the evidence is real." Back on New Haven, Chancellor Bora watched the council's response carefully. She had advisors analyzing every public statement, every military movement, every shift in public opinion. The broadcast had done exactly what she hoped. It created chaos. It forced the council to react instead of act. "They're mobilizing fleets," Admiral Tae-young reported. 3 battle groups have left their home ports. "They're trying to look strong." "Let them," Bora said. "Our ships are watching every move they make. They can't find us unless we want to be found, and their fleet movements tell us which leaders are panicking." Daewon entered the command center. "Chancellor, we're picking up another transmission. This one's directed at us specifically. It's from Counselor Dallin." Bora listened to the message. Dallin's face appeared on screen, tired but determined. "To the representatives of humanity, I am Counselor Dallin of the Velkari delegation. I have reviewed your evidence. Much of it matches documents I found in our restricted archives years ago. I believe you have been wronged. I cannot speak for the entire council, but I can speak for myself. I am willing to meet. I am willing to listen. And I am willing to help ensure justice is done. Please respond." The room was silent for a moment. Then Admiral Tae-young spoke. "It's a trap. It has to be. They want us to reveal our location." "Maybe," Dr. Hana said, "but maybe not. I've studied the Velkari. They have a cultural commitment to truth. It's considered the highest virtue in their society. If Dallin is sincere, she could be a valuable ally." Bora made her decision. "We respond. But we choose the meeting place. We choose the terms, and we make it clear that if this is a trap, the consequences will be severe." 2 weeks later, the response was sent. Humanity would meet with council representatives at Horizon Point, an old abandoned space station in neutral space. Both sides could bring security, but any weapons fire would result in immediate withdrawal. The meeting would be broadcast live to ensure transparency. When the council received humanity's terms, another argument broke out. Vrex called it unacceptable. "We cannot let these humans dictate terms to us. We are the Galactic Council. We have maintained order for 10,000 years. And in that 10,000 years, how many species have we eliminated?" Dallin shot back. "How many times have we used our power to protect our interests instead of pursuing real justice? Maybe it's time we were held accountable." The vote was close, but in the end, the council agreed to the meeting. They had little choice. Public pressure was growing. Protests were breaking out on dozens of worlds. People wanted answers. They wanted the truth. As Daewon prepared his ship for the journey to Horizon Point, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. 3,000 years had led to this moment. 3,000 years of hiding. 3,000 years of preparing. 3,000 years of waiting for justice. Now humanity would face the council that destroyed their world. Not with weapons, not yet, but with truth. And truth, Daewon thought, might be the most powerful weapon of all. Horizon Point had been abandoned for 200 years. The old station floated in empty space, far from any inhabited system. Its lights were dead. Its corridors were cold. But for this meeting, both sides agreed to bring portable life support and temporary facilities. This way no one had home advantage. Chancellor Bora arrived with a small delegation. Commander Day-Wan was with her, along with Dr. Hana and Admiral Tae-Young. They wore simple uniforms, gray with a blue Earth emblem on the shoulder. No weapons were visible, but Day-Wan knew they each carried defensive devices hidden in their clothes. The council delegation arrived an hour later. Counselor Dalene led them, accompanied by Thalmor the archivist and several other counselors. High Counselor Vrex was not physically present, but his face appeared on a communication screen watching everything. For a long moment, the two groups simply looked at each other. 3,000 years of separation. 3,000 years of pain. 3,000 years of secrets. All meeting in one room, Dalene spoke first. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. On behalf of those council members who value truth, I welcome you. And I offer my deepest apologies for what was done to your people. Apologies are easy, Bora replied. Her voice was hard. They cost nothing. What we need is accountability. Justice. Guarantees that this will never happen again. What exactly do you want? Another counselor asked. He was from a species Bora didn't recognize. His skin was blue and his eyes had 3 pupils each. Bora laid out humanity's demands. Public trials for those responsible, though most were dead. Reparations to rebuild Earth. Territory for human colonies. Complete sovereignty with no council interference. And most importantly, reformation of the council's governing structure to prevent future genocides. The blue-skinned counselor laughed. You demand we change our entire system of government? Because of something that happened 3,000 years ago? This is ridiculous, Dr. Hana stepped forward. She activated a holographic projector. Images filled the room. These are communications we recovered from council archives. They show clearly that the decision to destroy humanity was made for economic reasons. Your ancestors murdered 15 billion people to protect trade routes. She changed the image. These documents show that several species proposed less extreme solutions. Negotiations, trade agreements, shared territories, all were rejected. Why? Because complete elimination was more profitable. Another image appeared, and this shows what happened to council members who opposed the genocide. They were removed from their positions. Some were arrested. Others simply disappeared. Your government didn't just kill humanity. They killed their own people who tried to stop it. The room was silent. Even the blue-skinned counselor had stopped laughing. Thalmor spoke quietly. Everything she says is true. I found all of this in the restricted archives. I can provide verification. On the communication screen, Vrex's face twisted with rage. This is propaganda. Lies meant to weaken the council. We should end this meeting now and deal with the human threat properly. The human threat, Day-Wan said. He spoke for the first time. His voice was cold. Is that what you called my ancestors when you burned them alive? When you boiled their oceans? When you killed their children? He walked closer to the screen, showing Vrex. You want to know what the real human threat is? We survived. Despite everything you did to us, we survived. We adapted. We learned. And we became stronger than you can imagine. That's what threatens you, not our aggression. Our resilience, Vrex's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat, Commander? It's a fact, Day-Wan replied. Humanity could have hidden forever. We have technology you've never seen. We have weapons designed specifically to fight council ships. We could have struck without warning. We could have taken revenge. But we didn't. We came here to talk, to seek justice, not revenge. Don't confuse our restraint for weakness. Dalene held up her hands. Please, everyone. We came here to find a path forward, not to exchange threats. But Lieutenant Jiwoo was monitoring her equipment in the Revenant, still docked at Horizon Point. Suddenly her screen lit up with warnings. Her heart dropped. Commander, she spoke into her communicator, her voice urgent. We have a problem. I'm detecting a fleet approaching, multiple council warships. They're moving into attack formation. In the meeting room, everyone heard the warning. Day-Wan looked at Dalene. Did you know about this? Dalene's face went pale. No, I swear I didn't. She turned to the other counselors. They all looked equally shocked. All except one. The blue-skinned counselor was smiling. On the screen, Rex's expression confirmed everything. "The council has made its decision," he said. "We will finish what our ancestors started, and we will eliminate the traitors who sided with humanity at the same time." Dowleen stood up. "You planned this. You used this meeting as bait, not just for the humans but for us too, for anyone who questioned the old story. The council must be united," Rex said. "Those who question our strength make us weak. Consider this a cleansing. The humans will die, and so will their sympathizers." Admiral Tae-Young was already moving. "Everyone back to the ships now!" But Bora grabbed Dowleen's arm. "Come with us. Your ships will kill you too. We can protect you." Dowleen hesitated only a moment. Then she nodded. "Thalmor, bring the others who want to live." They ran through Horizon Point's corridors. Behind them, they could hear the blue-skinned counselor calling for help, trying to stop them. Daewon ignored him. They had minutes at most before Rex's fleet arrived. They reached the docking bay and scrambled aboard their ships. The Revenant's engines were already hot. Jiwoo had prepared for emergency departure. 30 seconds to weapons range, she reported. "Get us out of here," Daewon ordered. "And signal the fleet." "It's time." Jiwoo's fingers flew across her controls. A coded signal went out into deep space, and then something beautiful and terrible happened. The space around Horizon Point began to shimmer. Like a curtain being pulled back, ships appeared. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Human ships emerging from stealth. The Shroud Fleet had arrived. 3,000 years of preparation. 3,000 years of building in secret, all revealed in one moment. The ships were sleek and dark, covered in armor that seemed to drink in light. They moved with a grace that council ships couldn't match. On his command ship, the council admiral in charge of Rex's fleet froze. His sensors were going crazy. Hundreds of contacts, thousands. How had the humans hidden so many ships? His orders were clear, but now he questioned them. His fleet had 30 ships. The humans had at least 500 visible, and who knew how many still hidden. He opened a channel to Vrex. "High Counselor, the situation has changed. The humans have a massive fleet. If we engage, we will be destroyed." Vrex's face filled with fury. "Attack, that's an order. Show them the power of the council." The admiral looked at his crew. Young people, people with families, people who trusted him to keep them alive. He made a decision that would change his life. "No, I will not order my people to die for your pride. Fleet withdraw. That's my order." But not all ships obeyed. Some captains were loyal to Vrex above all else. 7 ships broke formation and charged the human fleet. It was brave. It was stupid. And it was over in minutes. Human weapons cut through council shields like they were paper. The 7 ships were destroyed before they could fire a single shot. The rest of the council fleet retreated. And aboard the Revenant, Daewon sat in his command chair, breathing hard. Beside him, Dowleen stared at the view screen in shock. "You really could have destroyed us all," she whispered. "At any time. You had the power." "Yes," Bora said. She had come to the bridge. "But power isn't the same as justice. We came here seeking justice. You tried to give it to us. It's not your fault that Vrex chose war instead." Dowleen looked at her. "What happens now?" Bora's expression was hard. "Now? Now the galaxy learns what real accountability looks like." The aftermath of Horizon Point changed everything. Within days, 3 more council species withdrew from their alliance with the central government. They announced they would remain neutral and wanted no part in any conflict with humanity. Others demanded answers. How had High Counselor Vrex ordered an attack without full council approval? Who else knew about his plan? Humanity captured Vrex's flagship 3 weeks later. It wasn't a battle. The ship's own crew mutinied and handed him over. They had watched their comrades die in the failed attack. They had seen human weapons cut through council shields, and they decided they would rather face trial than die for Vrex's pride. Chancellor Bora stood in front of Vrex's prison cell. The former High Counselor sat on a metal bench, his scales now dull gray instead of their usual bright red. He looked older somehow, defeated. "You should kill me," Vrex said. "That's what I would do. Execute me and be done with it." "I'm sure you would," Bora replied. "But we're not you. We don't believe in quick executions. We believe in justice. You're going to stand trial. You're going to answer for your crimes. And the whole galaxy is going to watch." Vrex laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Justice? From humans? That's rich. Everyone knows your species is violent. Aggressive. You'll take revenge no matter what you call it. Bora leaned closer to the bars. You know what's funny? For 3,000 years we asked ourselves if maybe you were right, if maybe we really were too dangerous, too aggressive. We carried that doubt, that guilt. But now I understand something. You never feared our violence. You feared our potential. You feared that we might become your equals, or worse, your superiors. She turned to leave, then looked back. Your trial begins in 1 month. I suggest you prepare a defense, though I doubt any defense will save you from the truth. The trial was held on Unity Prime, the Council's capital, but this time humans were there too. The courtroom was broadcast live to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions watched as Vrex was led in, wearing chains. Billions watched as the charges were read. Conspiracy to commit murder, treason against the Council. War Crimes Counselor Dowleen served as chief prosecutor. It was an unusual choice, a council member prosecuting another council member. But she insisted. This is our responsibility, she said. Our people committed these crimes. We must be the ones to hold them accountable. The trial lasted 3 months. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. Rex's defense argued he acted to protect the Council, that humanity was indeed a threat, that his methods were harsh but necessary. Dr. Hana took the stand. She presented the recovered documents. Communications showing Vrex planned the Horizon Point trap. Orders he gave to fire on his own people. Evidence that he knew the original genocide was based on economics, not security. High Counselor Vrex didn't act to protect the Council, Hana said. He acted to protect a lie that's been maintained for 3,000 years. The lie that humanity deserved destruction. He knew if the truth came out, his power would end. So he tried to eliminate everyone who knew the truth. Humans, council members, anyone who threatened his position. The verdict was guilty on all charges. Rex was sentenced to life imprisonment. His assets were seized. His family lost their titles. And most importantly, his crimes were entered into the permanent historical record. Future generations would know exactly what he did, but the trial was just the beginning. Bora had bigger plans. She called for tribunals to examine the original genocide. Vrex wasn't there 3,000 years ago, she said in a broadcast to the galaxy. But the system that allowed the genocide still exists. The structure that let economic interests override morality is still in place. We must change it. Not everyone agreed. Some species wanted to move on. It happened 3,000 years ago, they argued. Everyone involved is dead. Why dwell on the past? But others, especially younger civilizations, supported Bora. They saw in humanity's story a warning. Today it was humans. Tomorrow it could be them. If the Council could commit genocide once, they could do it again. The only way to prevent that was to change how the Council operated. The debates lasted for months. Representatives from hundreds of species argued about the future of galactic governance. Some wanted to disband the Council entirely. Others wanted reforms. A few wanted to maintain the status quo. During this time, not all humans were happy with Bora's approach. Commander Jaehoon led a group of survivors who wanted revenge, not justice. They murdered our ancestors, he told his followers. They tried to murder us at Horizon Point. Words and trials won't bring our dead back. We need to make them feel our pain. Jaehoon's group began attacking Council worlds. Small strikes at first. A military outpost here, a government building there. They were careful to avoid civilian casualties, but their message was clear. Humanity would not forgive. Humanity would not forget. Day One was given the job of stopping them. It was painful. Jaehoon had been his friend once. They trained together, fought together, survived together in the darkness between stars. He found Jaehoon's group planning another attack, a Council diplomatic station. Day One boarded their ship with a security team. He found his old friend in the command center staring at targeting screens. Jaehoon, don't do this, his friend turned. Day One, I should have known they'd send you. He smiled sadly. Remember when we were kids? We used to talk about what we'd do when we found the Council. All the revenge we'd take. You promised me, Day One. You promised we'd make them pay. I was a kid, Day One said. We both were. But we're adults now. And adults understand that revenge just creates more pain, more death. We have a chance to actually change things, to make sure this never happens again. But only if we're better than they were. Jaehoon shook his head. You've gone soft. They destroyed our world. They killed our families. And you want to let them walk away with trials and reforms? That's not justice. That's weakness. No, Daewon said quietly. Strength is doing the right thing even when it's hard. Even when every part of you wants revenge. Weakness is giving in to hate because it's easier than building something better. Jae-hoon reached for his weapon. Daewon was faster. The stun blast hit Jae-hoon in the chest. He fell. But as Daewon's team arrested the others, Jae-hoon woke up for a moment. "You're wrong," he whispered. "They'll never change. And you'll regret showing them mercy." Those words haunted Daewon for weeks afterward. What if Jae-hoon was right? What if the council couldn't change? What if all this effort to build justice and peace was wasted? But then he attended a session of the new Galactic Assembly. After months of debate, the old council structure was being replaced. Instead of a small group making decisions in secret, there would be open representation. Every species would have a voice. Decisions would be transparent. And most importantly, there were now laws protecting emerging species from exploitation. Dal-Lin was elected first speaker of the assembly. In her acceptance speech, she said something that stuck with Daewon. 3,000 years ago, the council chose profit over life. They chose power over justice. They chose to silence questions rather than seek truth. We cannot undo what was done. We cannot bring back the dead. But we can honor their memory by becoming the government they deserved. A government that serves all species equally. A government that admits its mistakes. A government that chooses justice. The assembly chambers erupted in applause. Not just from humans. From dozens of species. Hundreds of representatives who believed in the dream of real change. That night, Daewon visited Jae-hoon in prison. His old friend looked tired. Defeated. "The assembly passed the new charter today," Daewon said. "Real reforms. Real change. Real protection for species like us. It's not perfect. But it's better." Jae-hoon looked at him. "Did it bring back Earth? Did it resurrect the dead?" "No," Daewon admitted. "Nothing can do that. But it can prevent the next genocide. Isn't that worth something? Isn't that a way to honor those who died?" Jae-hoon didn't answer. He just turned away. But Daewon saw something in his friend's eyes. Not agreement, not yet, but maybe, just maybe, the beginning of understanding. As Daewon left the prison, he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was beginning its long healing. Somewhere out there, human colonies were growing. Somewhere out there, the future was being built. Not on revenge. Not on hate. But on the simple, powerful idea that justice mattered more than vengeance. It was a beginning. Just a beginning. But for a species that had survived 3,000 years in darkness, any beginning felt like dawn. 5 years had passed since Horizon Point. 5 years since humanity revealed themselves to the galaxy. Admiral Daewon stood on the bridge of his new ship, looking out at a sight he never thought he would see. Earth. Old Earth. From orbit. It almost looked like the pictures from 3,000 years ago. Almost. The oceans were blue again. Terraforming efforts had restored them over the past 5 years. Some continents were green with new forests, grown from preserved seeds humanity had carried through their exile. But large sections of the planet were still scarred. Glass plains where cities once stood, memorial sites where nothing would ever grow again, reminders of what was lost. A young officer approached him. She couldn't have been more than 20. "Admiral, the ceremony is about to begin. They're asking for you." Daewon nodded. He took a shuttle down to the surface, to a place that had once been called New York. The glass plain stretched for miles, reflecting the sun like a mirror. In the center stood the Memorial of the Lost, a massive wall carved from black stone kilometers long, covered in names. 15 billion names. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered. Humans, of course, but also Vilcari, Talshan, and dozens of other species, even some whose ancestors had voted for humanity's destruction. They came to remember, to honor, to promise it would never happen again. Dal-Lin stood at the podium. She was older now, her face lined with the stress of 5 years as first speaker of the Galactic Assembly, but her voice was still strong. "We gather here today not just to remember the past, but to commit to the future. 3,000 years ago, my people and others made a terrible choice. We chose profit over life, power over justice, silence over truth." She gestured to the memorial wall. "These names represent more than the dead. They represent a warning, a reminder of what happens when we allow fear and greed to guide our decisions. When we forget that every species, no matter how different, deserves the chance to exist. Darlene stepped back. Bora came forward. The former chancellor had retired from politics. She now taught at the rebuilt Earth University, training the next generation of diplomats and leaders. Her hair was completely white now, but her eyes were still sharp. When I was young, Bora said, I believed revenge was justice. I believed making our enemies suffer would somehow heal our pain. I was wrong. Justice isn't about causing pain. It's about preventing future pain. It's about building systems that protect everyone, not just the powerful. She looked out at the crowd. These past 5 years haven't been easy. We've had setbacks. We've had violence. Some humans still want revenge. Some council species still resist change. But we've also had victories. The Galactic Assembly works. Species that were once enemies now work together. Trade routes are open to all. New species are protected, not exploited. Bora placed her hand on the memorial wall. We cannot bring you back. We cannot undo what was done. But we can ensure your deaths weren't meaningless. We can build the galaxy you should have lived to see. A galaxy where no species lives in fear, where no government can commit genocide in secret, where truth matters more than profit. After the speeches, Daiwan walked along the memorial wall. He found his great-great-grandmother's name. He traced it with his finger. He had never known her, but he carried her memory. All humans did. A small girl approached him. She was human, maybe 6 years old. She held her father's hand. Her father was Velkari. Mixed families like this were becoming more common. A sign of the new galaxy taking shape. Are we safe now? The little girl asked. Her voice was small but brave. Daiwan knelt down to her level. He thought about how to answer. He could lie. Tell her everything was fine, that the danger was past. But she deserved the truth. We're safer, he said. We built something better from the ashes. But safety isn't something we achieve once and keep forever. It's something we have to protect. Every day, together. The girl thought about this, then she nodded. She didn't fully understand, but she trusted. She ran back to her parents and they walked away together. A human child and an alien parent. 3,000 years ago, that would have been impossible. Now it was just another family. That evening, Daiwan met with his old crew from the Revenant. Jiwoo was there. She was a captain now, commanding her own ship. She spent her time searching for lost human colonies, descendants of generation ships that fled before Earth's destruction. She had found 3 so far. Each time she sent them the same message. You are not alone anymore. Come home. Dr. Hana was there too. She directed the Galactic Museum of Reconciliation, located right here on Earth. The museum documented not just humanity's genocide, but other atrocities committed across galactic history. Her work ensured that no species could forget the cost of unchecked power. They sat together, sharing stories and memories. They talked about the early days when they first revealed humanity's survival. They talked about the battles, the trials, the slow, painful process of building something new. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had chosen revenge instead of justice? Jiwoo asked. Daiwan was quiet for a moment. Sometimes. We had the power. We could have destroyed the council, taken everything from them the way they took everything from us. But then what? Hana said. We would have become them. Another empire built on fear and violence. Another cycle of hatred. 3,000 years from now, someone else would have been plotting against us. The cycle had to break, Daiwan agreed. And we were the ones strong enough to break it. They raised their glasses. A toast to the dead. To the survivors. To those who chose the harder path. To those who believed justice mattered more than revenge. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Daiwan thought about Jae-hoon. His old friend was still in prison, still angry, still convinced that humanity had been too soft. But a few months ago, Jae-hoon had sent him a message. Just 3 words. Maybe you're right, it wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. But it was something. A crack in the wall of hate. A possibility of healing. Daiwan looked out his window at Earth below. Lights were spreading across the dark continents. Cities being rebuilt, farms being planted, life returning to a world that had been dead for 3,000 years. It would take centuries to fully restore, but humans were patient. They had waited 3,000 years for justice. They could wait a few centuries for Earth to bloom again. The next morning, Daiwan attended a special session of the Galactic Assembly. A new species was being welcomed. They were called the Mirren, discovered just 6 months ago. Young civilization just beginning to explore space. Exactly the kind of species the old council might have exploited or eliminated, but not anymore. Under the new laws, the Mirren were protected. They were given technology assistance, trade agreements on fair terms, a seat in the assembly with a voice equal to any ancient civilization. The Mirren ambassador stood at the podium, trembling with emotion. "We were afraid," she said. "We thought joining the galactic community meant losing our independence. But you have shown us another way." "Thank you." Daewon watched from the gallery. This was what they fought for. Not revenge. Not dominance. But the chance to build something better. A galaxy where young species could thrive instead of being exploited. Where mistakes were acknowledged instead of hidden. Where justice was real instead of just a word. Was it perfect? No, there were still problems. Still conflicts. Still species that resisted change. But it was better. And better was enough. That night, as Daewon prepared to leave Earth and return to his duties, he took one last walk along the memorial wall. The sun was setting, painting the glass planes golden red. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. He placed his hand on the wall one more time. Felt the names beneath his fingers. "We did it," he whispered. "We survived. We returned. And we didn't let hate win. I hope that makes you proud." The wind picked up, carrying the smell of new growth from the restored forests. Somewhere in the distance, he heard children laughing. Human children. Alien children. Playing together without fear. Without hate. 3,000 years ago, the Council tried to erase humanity from existence. They failed. Not because humanity was violent. Not because humanity was aggressive. But because humanity was resilient. Adaptable. Unbreakable. And most importantly, because when given the choice between revenge and justice, humanity chose the harder path. They chose to build instead of destroy. To heal instead of hurt. To break the cycle instead of continuing it. As Daewon's shuttle lifted off, carrying him back to orbit, he looked down at Earth one last time. Half restored, half scarred. A perfect symbol for humanity itself. Damaged but healing. Broken but rebuilt. Destroyed but never defeated. The galaxy had tried to end humanity's story 3,000 years ago. Instead, humanity had just finished writing the first chapter of something new. A chapter about resilience, about justice, about the power of choosing hope over hate. And as Earth's blue ocean sparkled in the sunlight below, one thing was absolutely certain. Humanity had faced the council that destroyed their world. They had survived. They had returned. And they had won. Not through violence, not through revenge, but through the simple, powerful act of being better than those who tried to destroy them. Humanity. Fuck yeah.